Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Whiskey Gaming Show. We got the usual crew today on the Christmas edition of the show. We've got Caleb here with me. Say hey, Caleb. We got RJ. RJ's being quiet. Or he left. Who knows? Maybe he's going to watch another rocket blast off. We got McLeod. And we got Scythe. And everybody's being really quiet, or my sound's messed up on my, There it is. Why don't you guys say hey again? My shit is broken.
Hello.
My shit is already broken. I break it all the time. No, actually, it's Discord, because when I... Discord seems to mute everybody to me, but they can hear me. It's really strange every once in a while here. It's happened twice now.
Error.
User error. Pebcat, right? Problem exists between user and keyboard.
Yep.
Well, we have a glorious Christmas Eve day here where I am. It just started snowing just before we started getting ready for the show. So as I look out my office windows, which are right in front of me here, I can see all my Christmas lights, my front yard, and a bunch of snow coming down. So hopefully it's looking good for all of you.
Oh, yeah.
In hoodie weather outside right now where I am.
Hoodie weather. Yeah, it's a little warm for you.
It's shorts and t-shirt weather where I am. It's like 65 degrees outside. I don't know what that is in Celsius because Celsius sucks.
Is that normal for where you are? Or is
Yeah, a
that
little
really
bit, yeah,
abnormal?
actually. That's
Okay.
about right. Like normally like 50s is our average during December. It doesn't really start snowing down here till like February.
Oh, okay.
If at all.
Because I'm very much in the frame of mind of like, you know, it's Christmas. It should be cold and snowing. Like,
Dude, the
generally
last,
where I live.
the last like 4 Christmases down here, I think my family and I we played like football in the yard in like shorts and stuff because it was hot.
There's snow on my mountains outside. That's about it.
Mountains are lame.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but right after the show here, we're going to start kicking into Christmas mode here at the house. We've got a bunch of bread to bake. We got pies to bake. We got food to
There
cook.
are other people at my house right now who are doing all of that, and I'm being lazy because I had to go to work today. So I'm
Hey,
like, nah,
if you want, I can get my wife's recipe for some beer bread. If you want some of that.
Hashtag winning.
How much beer do you have to
Beer
put in?
bread.
Depending on how, I think it's like 1 beer per loaf or something like that.
Okay.
She generally uses my Killian's, but I'll snag you the recipe.
Oh yeah,
Your
throw the
favorite bread
recipe in
anyways.
Discord. Yeah,
By that I mean by that I guess you probably have to open the beer and actually put it into the batter rather than just putting the bottle of beer into the actual thing and just
Well-
pouring it over.
Cloud, you want to know how you make whiskey cornbrid? You take a bottle of whiskey
Pour
out,
whiskey into the
pour
cornbread
about
mix.
half a cup of whiskey.
Done.
Mix up the cornbread. Get ready to put your whiskey in there, and then start drinking the whiskey while you wait for the cornbread muffins to bake.
Oh, there we go.
Whiskey cornbread.
That's pretty nice.
Recipe.
We're gonna.
I mean, I've been doing some mulled cider and some mulled wine
yeah.
like lately.
I've got,
so that's been fucking awesome.
I've got a vodka that will not be named because it would be a plug for a different INN show that I'm about to go get drink. They had it on sale where I was at our liquor stores here, and I'm like, oh, I'll get some of said vodka that might round with Dito's.
I will guarantee you that I am going out after this and warming up some spice mulled wine, so that'll be pretty good.
Cool.
Nothing better in the snow, and considering about like 4 bottles of it, I better drink it, right?
Yeah, you might want to drink that at some point.
Yeah.
It's like a waste, you know.
So yeah.
Well, to be fair, mulled wine is like I think traditionally was done to actually use up wine. So you know,
who knows?
Yeah.
Bourbon pound cake. There we go.
Is that just cake
Aramis,
while you drink
Aramis.
bourbon? Because that's like my normal.
No, actually, well, there's no real alcohol in stuff you bake, but yeah, we're gonna do a little. We've got some cranberry bread, some cinnamon raisin bread we're making. We got apple pies. We got pumpkin pies. We got gingerbread cookies. We got all kinds of stuff to go. It's gonna be a busy
we got
day.
Dang.
to cook. We just ain't got started yet. Well, they've got started. I'm being lazy. I'll go help like decorate sugar cookies or whatever the hell it is.
Help decorate sugar cookies.
Yeah.
It's
could-
like
Could not have sounded less manly right there and then.
Fuck you, man. Cookies are a manly adventure.
or is it at least
Apart from Girl Guides, go around and sell them.
is it at least the sourdough sugar cookie dough? Not
Yes.
that. Okay, good.
Yes. Sourdough sugar cookies. They're like my second favorite kind of cookie.
You got to get those little apricot fold over cookies. I forget what they're called, but it's like a
We've
batter,
done those before as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
We do. We normally do like the apricot tart cookies,
yeah, those are good too. Yeah,
where it's like the apricot preserves or whatever.
Just
like the
fold it
middle
over.
of the cookie.
yeah.
Yeah. Where they're like have a little shape cut out in the middle of a snowflake, and that's full of jam or some shit.
Yeah, apricot preserves.
So Aramis is correct. Cookies can get you lit. He's not wrong.
Yeah,
Works.
by fat chicks.
No, by any woman during the fall, and from where I'm from, if you bring cookies, they're like, oh shit.
You baked?
Yeah, they're like a real man knows his way around the kitchen. People, all right.
Damn straight.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough.
I'm just saying.
Not that I've cooked in the last 20 years very often. I haven't, but when we were dating, I used to be able to cook much better than my wife. And she will tell you that too. She thought I was going to continue that. That didn't come with the wedding.
Contractual breach.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when I was cooking, I was thinner. That's all I'm going to say. So she's not a bad cook at all. She's pretty good. So, alrighty. So why don't we get on to some of the topics of the day? Now that we got a little Christmas out of there. Hope everybody that is watching the show is gearing up for Christmas or whatever holiday you're going to celebrate. We celebrate a lot of holidays in this house in December.
Yeah.
So we got a few. The kids get a little spoiled.
I forgot y'all do all of them essentially.
You know what? Aramis just brought one last thing up right here. He says women like the smell of fresh cookies. And
Not wrong.
What was
I would
that
say-
movie that John Travolta was in? And he was like the Archangel Michael or something.
It's called Michael.
It's called Michael.
Oh,
Yeah. And all the women keep saying he keeps smelling like cookies, right? And they just love it,
Face Off.
right?
It smelled like
I
what
was
they
thinking
love.
Face Off. That's what I was telling you.
Face
I
off.
was Face Off. Is he not Michael in Face Off? Isn't he?
Who knows?
I'm not sure what his character is in Face Off, but I'm pretty sure.
I don't really follow John Travolta that much. I just happen to
No
remember
one
that.
should follow John Travolta that much. All right, he's a crazy person.
I know that when he goes to the Old Fort
Like-
Pub
like-
on Hilton Head, he likes the crab cakes. That's about all I know.
It's like you kind of
Oh,
thinking
you know
we-
more about John
Scythe.
Travolta's personal preferences than I do. So,
Scythe, were you thinking that John Travolta did this whole kind of thing in this, like the whole kind of like my characters need to be the same name in every single
Yes.
film that I do, like Keanu Reeves. Like
Yeah,
Keanu Reeves is
does
like
that shit all
Keanu
the
Reeves
time.
always is
He's
like
always
in every
John
single
for
film that he does. It's
something, yeah.
always John.
John.
It's always John.
it's always John or Neo.
Follow the right white rabbit. That's all I'm gonna say.
Follow the white rabbit, man.
the white
Oh, yeah.
rabbit. That was
Sure, I'll go.
all right. So
Or
let's
go fuck yourself.
let's
The best line in that movie.
search the
We're just
sky.
interrupting Eric.
All
I'm
right.
just gonna interrupt Eric all the time.
Just go interrupt me
I
constantly.
love
Doesn't
how
matter.
Caleb's just like chilling. Caleb's just like
Caleb
so
is the
good.
calmest
Caleb.
person on this show, and this doesn't make sense.
Everybody thinks he's smoking a cigarette. I don't think it is. I think it's something else.
That's a fucking joint. Caleb is freaking stoned.
420.
It's only 3. You have an hour. Chill.
So
You gotta at least make it through the day.
I'm 8-9 hours ahead of you, guys.
yeah, it's almost Christmas Eve where you're at, huh? You too, McLeod.
It's getting there. It's evening. It's not quite like super late.
I need more frickin'. I need a fucking blizzard. I like tons of fucking snow. I don't know.
I hate snow. You can have our snow.
I've got a 4-wheel drive. I don't care.
It's just I can't do anything when it snows here. Everything shuts down.
I know. Well,
get
that's
bored.
because you're the
I get
South.
bored real
You
easy.
don't know what to do with anything.
We're in the proper part of the country. You're correct.
Yeah. Well, shout out, hey, search the sky. How you doing, brother? So let's talk about some Eve shit. What are we gonna talk about, Caleb?
The fact that there's nothing going on, and I am getting close to joining the Eve is Dying team.
Hey,
Hey, and
we'll have none of that.
Nick killed a keep star.
And it
Yeah,
killed a
exactly.
Keepstar. There you go.
You just need to be in the right place at the right time.
You
That's
gotta
the
log
thing.
in, man. You gotta log in.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You don't log in, you don't get to play.
True. So the options are join in it if you want to have any resemblance of fun, and
Yeah.
join Goons in Delve if you want to actually be able to afford doing anything in the game.
Correct.
Correct.
You got it.
Yeah, you've hit it 100%.
That
So
is
you
that
have
is Stacey.
the options of Imperium or Imperium or Imperium.
Exactly. That is the correct choices.
So we should go Imperium.
Yeah, you know what? We might actually go Imperium, RJ. I mean, it's not like we're already a member corp or anything like that. You know, we have a B.
Fuck it. Let's just do it this way. Hey, Imperium is recruiting. Just go. Go with it, guys.
let's do it this way. Patriotic Tendencies recruit.
Patriotic Tendencies is recruiting too.
Yeah,
We
we
are.
are.
We are also part of the Imperium.
Yeah. Yep.
No, lately
If you want to work, well, come fly with us. You'll make enough money. You'll get one.
You know,
yeah, there's like people with 3 friggin' 4 Rorquals, etc., etc.
Hey.
Like,
how about that? How about who was it? Was it NC or who was it that decided to pay Replicator to come back and camp every system in Delph?
I think it was, I think the joke is that it was NC, but I don't know if that's true.
I mean, we're just sitting there going, "Hey, Replicator, how you doing? Hey, how's your work?
I think I'm just gonna start talking to him.
Are you going to the Colossal or are you going to the Ice Belt? Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Let's not talk about our strategy, but we came up with a good strategy to troll campers the other night. And,
What do you mean? This
it worked
isn't
well.
this isn't
But I mean-
new. We troll them all the time. We tell them exactly where we are and to come join us.
No. We were telling them information that was not cool. It was on the level of Bruce Willis as a ghost about a recent movie that came out.
A recent movie. Oh,
A
okay.
very recent movie that came out maybe like last Thursday or so. It's like a space combat or some shit. It's got some fucking weird name. I don't know. There's a short green dude in it.
Short green dude, eh?
I think Mark Hamill shows up at one point.
Is that mucus
Star
from
Trek.
that commercial in that movie?
What's that? What?
Is that mucus from the Mucinex commercial? That
Yeah,
short
that's
green
like
guy?
that was.
Okay.
You're right. Yeah. Dead on.
I don't know if it'll work so well this week. I mean, it's 2 weeks in now.
Oh
so,
no!
yeah.
People,
Oh.
few people I've told it to are very upset.
Dude, that one night we did that, I got blocked like instantly.
Oh yeah, I just started logging in alts to troll harder.
Oh, who were you guys trolling that night?
It was what was it? It was like Compelli something or other. Some fucking weird name. Basically, the email something of "Welcome to Delve. Insert Star Wars spoiler here." It was mean. I mean that, like, I actually kind of felt bad about them. That was a little over the line, but drunk me thought it was real funny.
And we weren't sending out fake spoilers. They were legit spoilers.
No, we were telling them real shit.
They were legit spoilers.
They were
So, yeah.
legit. Oh, I made up a few that were plausible. Let me put it that way. But most of it was legitimate. This is actually a spoiler for this movie. Oh, it's bad. We're bad people.
Ah, well.
We're going to space hell.
The fact that this is what we're talking about in Eve is just part and parcel of there's nothing going on. And
There's
as hard as
nothing going
CCP
on.
seems to try to create content,
I don't think they're
to
trying that hard.
to
Did
put
you see
people.
the video?
What?
The dev video for December. Did you
No.
watch that?
No.
It's the most fluffy, no content thing I've seen for a long time, and it also ties into the whole no Christmas gift topic. It seems as if they are on a break or something, and they went on it quite early this year.
You know what? I would have been happy with fireworks that are big enough not to look like little pieces of shit next to a citadel, right? Give me fucking
Yeah.
capital fireworks. Just make them fucking bigger.
Oh, Citadel weapon. firework launcher.
We've been promised that for a while. We were talking about
That
that
would be awesome.
almost a year ago, right? When structures were out, and the whole thing was that everyone was talking about wanting Citadel-sized fireworks.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, right? I mean, they didn't do Christmas gifts this year. Almost every MMO does something special for Christmas.
Some kind of Christmas
They
thing.
CCP claims to want to get people out in space so they can get shot. Well, guess what? People are out in space and nobody's getting shot, okay?
'Cause there's
Because
nothing to do.
nobody wants to deal with just shooting, right? You got to make income in the game in order to shoot people.
Yes.
And it ties back to the thing that I was trying to hint at in the beginning of why I'm close to joining the Eve is Dying team. I think we have a huge problem of the FC content drivers. They've figured out that the game is now boring because there's nothing new and novel to do. There's nothing to fight over.
Well, here's
Well,
the thing.
there's some stuff to fight over. It's just you know people need to commit.
Well, here's the thing. You're not gonna drop a bunch of miners on a bunch of freaking moon goo, okay? Because if you do, they're just gonna scatter, and you might get one or two, and you're not gonna mine the moon goo, or they're just gonna drop on you, right? So you can't really steal it easily. You know, I have actually, I think, turned off up to 3 accounts now because I just don't need them, right?
Yep,
So
that's what I was telling my investors earlier today. Start considering looking at things like planetary interaction material, so PI, because a lot of people are closing down their extra accounts. That means that they're usually also closing down their PI operations. So I would expect something like a 10 or 20% increase in value because there's just not enough supply coming in.
Well, I think there's so much demand for PI that even if people weren't turning off PI accounts, they would do it. Angry
Thank you
Sloth.
for the donation, Angry Sloth.
Angry Sloth.
Thank you,
Donation
thank you.
$5. Thank you very much.
Christmas money. We're gonna spend that on candy canes.
Candy cane. Hey, candy canes. They got some unique flavors, but we'll
We're
talk
gonna
about
put
that
them
later.
in our chocolate, our hot chocolate full of rum.
Yeah, here's the thing.
I thought-
Nobody wants to take anybody else's Sov right now. Everybody's got what they want. And you're just going to have small fleets coming in and harassing people. And small fleets are going to be countered. Especially in
That's
Delve.
kind of what I was talking to Cheetah from chat, and I was classifying it as space hooliganism. We don't have fights anymore. No one fights for anything. It's not even racketeering or mobster wars or something like that. No one is fighting for anything except for fighting. The assets or the incentives are not there. So it's all just space hooliganism. It's what team are you on? And then the tribal loyalty is actually not that good because people just shit.
Yeah. Oh.
Did we
It's a case
drop
of-
again?
We had a little network interruption there, so sorry,
Yeah.
everybody.
Eric, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, good. Yeah. We want to make sure. Want to make
Yes.
sure this doesn't start again.
And 476 packets were just dropped between
Damn.
me and you.
That's awesome. That's a lot of packets.
And I wanted to thank Angry Soth if he didn't see for the $5. Thank you very much, sir.
I saw that came through.
Stall, yeah, engine stall. I was like, and I'm like looking, and I'm like, damn it, because on XSplit I can see the packets drop, right? And I'm like, damn, what happened? So we'll see. Still snowing. Not laying on the ground because it was 56 degrees and rainy this morning, so that sucks.
It's in fact not snowing here either.
Had you probably stole those packets. No, McLeod, we are the packets that we want to run faster, right? I don't give a shit about my email packets. They can be delivered whenever the hell they want to be delivered, right? I want my streaming video. I want my Twitch. I want my video feeds. I want all those to go fast, right?
I didn't want to throw us into that
Cloud,
conversation
why did you go there?
Oh my
because I
God.
know people hate that. 'Cause it's just
Tragic
weird.
comment in chat.
Yeah, well,
The Chinese are not going to improve anything. They're going to make things worse. They
They're
are so
shit.
grindy. They make Delve look slow.
Oh, yeah, like I mean, in terms of grinding, like you don't know grinding until you've played
Chinese
with
grinded.
groups.
See, half of every
Until you play with
Chinese.
Chinese groups, you do not know what grinding is. You may think that you're hardcore at grinding,
But
through
what if I
various
think of
different things.
hardcore
Like,
PvP?
So you know about there's
PvP maybe not so much, but like I don't know, like I've had experience with Chinese both in PvP and like moment to moment PvP and for like grindy stuff.
Mhm.
They are amazing at grinding, resources and materials and that kind of stuff. Like they are amazing. Like moment to moment gameplay, not so much, but something more tactical like Eve, they might be pretty fucking good.
I was listening to another podcast out there where something like this came up because, apparently on the Chinese server they can mine a Titan in like 3 to 4 days.
Would not surprise me.
do you know why? Do you know why they can do that in 3 or 4 days?
They're like 4 patches behind.
No. Here's why. Because 25% of every Chinese corporation, right, are a bunch of guys doing soft labor in jail, right? Where that's what they do. 16 hours a day they mine for the corporation.
See, each Chinese prison has like a
That's right.
corporation in Eve.
That's right.
That's how the warden's
Good to be the warden, right? Because a warden wants a Titan every fucking 3 days, motherfucker.
Can't we? Couldn't we maybe send a lawyer to some of the prison systems in the U.S. because apparently they have quite a lot of people incarcerated as well. Maybe we could weaponize them.
Oh no! America's already weaponized their workforce that is basically in jail. Like they've already done that. They've already done that.
Yeah, but they're making jeans and stuff. We need them to come and grind for Dell.
They make license plates in America, okay?
Yeah,
License plates and jeans.
And shivs.
they do make shivs. That is correct. That is a standard commodity for our prison system.
So yeah, no, I don't know where to go from there. But back to the the Eve, right? There's nothing to do in Eve except make fun of the cloaky campers in mine. I
think the problem is that I think the Serenity server slightly foreshadows what is actually about to happen and has already partly happened in Eve. It's just grinding down to a halt because there is no incentive left. The Serenity server is entirely like one big alliance owning pretty much all the stuff. It's not even Blue Ball. It's equivalent of goons taking over all space in Eve.
It's like an OTEC.
Yeah, but it's crazy, right? It's been totally dominated by one force. There's no incentives. There's no modes of challenging it, and the only things that keep that at bay in the TQ server, in my personal opinion, is that we don't have that much budding. We don't have that much tradition of extreme sweatshopping, crabbing, and of course, we do actually have some sort of anti-authoritarian behavior. So if that stops working, Eve is going to develop exactly the same on TQ as on Serenity.
See, the one thing which I wanted to sort of say about the difference between what goes on or what used to go on the Serenity server versus on Tranquility is, like, from what I seem to remember about, all of the goings on Serenity, like, RMT isn't really cracked down at all. Botting isn't really cracked down at all on Serenity. So, and, I'd go so far as to say that, I don't know this for absolute certain, this might be conjecture, but I think it's fairly safe-ish to say that certain groups of people in China don't exactly have the most amazing working wage, like per week kind of thing. So the idea of botting a bunch of stuff in Eve and then RMTing that out to actually make a wage to live on is actually a genuinely it's conceivably possible. I don't think it's something that's, but the conditions required to make that possible means that I think that whole kind of like Blue Donut kind of styled OTEC thing going on Serenity, it essentially kind of ensures that. Whereas you won't really get that in, on Tranquility, because a lot of the population on Tranquility already have, a higher wage per week than you would ever get from botting and selling of RMT. So I don't think it will.
But the RMT does not actually. It's not that much of a problem. It's more the botting and the resourcing and the lack of destruction that's a major problem on the Serenity server. The RMT, of course, because as you say, real wages and proportional wealth, all that stuff is an issue, but it's not the same issue as on TQ. On TQ, you could actually argue the opposite, that the RMT that goes on TQ is of a lot bigger scale, but fewer people, right? But it's the assets and resource generation that's crazy on Serenity, and it is actually creeping up on TQ as well. We've been following the Mir for the last 12 months, and it's just been increasing and becoming more and more stupid, right?
It is increasing quite considerably. The MER, not the Russian space station that's flying around.
That one crashed, didn't it?
That was quite a while. No,
actually,
Mir like actually did crash. I thought for a second that it would actually ended up being part of the International Space Station, but it's not. That was. But
no, I do think that we are seeing some of the same trend lines on Tranquility.
I just think the conditions that make Serenity what it is today, or what it is today, aren't going to be really that possible on Tranquility. So saying that Serenity, that Tranquility is going to turn into Serenity, I don't think that's going to happen, because the pressures that create the scenario for Serenity to be what it is today is not going to happen on Tranquility. My personal belief.
I think you're wrong. I think you're already seeing that trend. It's not as extreme and it's not as fast, but some people that have been saying they only give EVE like 3 years left on its lifespan. It's not entirely wrong. If this trend continues, they will only have 3 years, and then people will start fucking off, because you can only have so much fun just playing hooligan wars and good fights.
Unless people around the world start seeing, interstellar credits as a form of, proper cryptocurrency, as a legit proper cryptocurrency. Like, I don't see it happening.
So, here's my prediction. I predict that 2018 will be a significant drop in EVE players. Unless something dramatic
that is a huge
happens.
Risk. A huge risk. I agree.
I think if things don't change and the game doesn't get more interesting, that's what's going to happen. But here's what CCP is going to do in response to that. So here's what I'm going to predict, right? They're going to do more things to make you sit in space longer mining. Okay?
But I don't think the mining is the issue.
No. They believe...
It's all the other designs. It's the things that they are afraid of touching, because it is a fact that many of the changes that are needed will also cost players, right? People will actually quit because they fix things. But the difference is that if they do that, they will come back. But if they keep making it this stupid easy mode, no engagement, no incentives, all the horrible features are still unfixed, right? If they keep going down that line, people will quit permanently.
See, I predict that EVE is going to, like CCP is going to do, they believe that putting mining ships in space, that miners will just keep putting them out in space so they get ganked. And that's not how it works. It's not how it works.
That's not how it happens.
But if you look at their design, that's what they're designing, right? So Rorquals, big expensive target, put it in space, make it sit there mine, then nerf it mining after everybody does it, so they keep mining in their Rorquals, and people will just gank the hell out of them. No, we just mine so freaking much that it doesn't matter, right?
You can't scale it like that, because it's equivalent to a bait and switch, right? That's what they've been doing. We've talked about the bait and switch tactic a lot with the whole SP trading, and how pulling it out and putting it back in and a small diminishing return thing, and then they flip it around and then nerf something, and then you have to do it again. This is just bait and switching all around, right? It's not going to work.
Like Caleb, understandably, it did seem very much like they were doing a bait and switch in terms of the big Rorqual redesign and then subsequent nerfs, right? Like that's understandable. I get entirely where you're coming from, but like really, that's only actually ever happened with the Rorqual, to be completely honest. And like CCP have kind of come out and said, yes, what we did there was a bit sucky. We didn't really want to do it. And it's not. It's not like they've done it to, a whole bunch of other different things. It's not like they've done that bait and switch kind of method to a whole bunch of other stuff. So, saying that it's some kind of bait and switch sort of like pattern, like I think is a bit much.
I think it's a trend that you're definitely seeing. If
it's a trend, then there need to be multiple.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have multiple points to sort of to line that trend up towards a direction, man. Like, and
you
then
can see it
got
with
one
the
at the
syncs.
moment.
What are the big syncs? They just add new blueprints that will sync some ISK out momentarily, but it's just going to increase the productivity on the other side. So. And there's no stopping the faucet of ISK at the moment. They are not willing to actually make the step that is required to stop those faucets. And they keep adding these things. You have to then train that up or inject it. And that is equivalent to the bait and switch. The Rorq was just the thing that made it obvious for everyone. But you can say the same about things with PI and stuff like that, speculating on that and then having to do the same thing backwards and forwards.
Yeah, let me address Sally Cafferton in chat here, right? CCP was actually told by the CSM that they made tremendous mistakes with that design, right? And CCP's response was, no, that's exactly how powerful we want it. We understand how powerful we're making it, right? That was essentially the response that they gave the CSM. CSM said, you're going to have problems with it as you go forward. It's too powerful, right? Yeah, and that's the problem, Sally, right? I mean, they don't listen to the CSM, right? So
they have these moments where like they don't listen to the CSM and then they go and do something and then like there's a backlash.
Well, CCP
CSM go like, we fucking told you and this is what happened. We told you that this was what's going on.
Well, here's the thing. CCP has this thing that we're being meted by the CSM and don't think that they don't. Okay.
They would be paranoid about thinking that. But then again, why do you think they would think that when you've got people like fucking what's his face from NC? What's his name?
Vince?
The leader Vince. When Vince gets on there, like he campaigned to be on there, and it's it's the CSM. Like you get information about what's going to happen, what's going to change in the game.
Sure.
In advance. You can't talk about it. You're not allowed to talk about it. You're not really allowed to sort of, you shouldn't be, insider trading to some degree with that information.
Right.
Most of them can't really do that, and the traditional leaks have been out for 2-3 years now. We've not had serious leaking.
But that's the thing. There wasn't really much for Vince to basically, capitalize on and get NC to be, to further NC in some way, shape, or form with that insider information. So what did he do? He just didn't do anything on the CSM, which is why he was kicked out of the CSM for, low activity. Because there was nothing, like once he got in there and saw what was going on, saw what he could potentially capitalize on, he realized there wasn't really much to capitalize on, so he just went inactive.
Yeah, well, but when you have the
we should add allegedly, right? Shouldn't we add that caveat?
Probably.
Yeah, brackets allegedly. But like, I mean, to be honest, if you want to talk about like, connecting dots to trends, that's a fucking trend right there.
And it may be. But I think the challenge that CCP has is when the entire CSM is sitting here saying, bad idea. Stop.
Yeah.
Bad idea. Right? And by the way, rational people can figure out when they're being meted, right? I mean, but CCP is just crazily paranoid about the whole ordeal, I think. But
it's because they've been played in the past, right?
Sure, everybody has, but I mean, at the same time, you should be able to understand what's going on with your game.
But,
be smart enough.
I think the thing is that the people that might actually be capable of understanding these long-term trend lines and higher tier meta things, they are not necessarily the big voices in CCP, and I think that's a major issue and a huge flaw, that too short-term thinking devs have the final say.
Well, and when you talk about short-term, right, we already know that in the past that CCP have never used metrics to say whether a release was a success or not, right? I'd be very interested to see if they've adopted any, because I don't think
that's because their metrics are like, I don't want to say trash, but like they don't think their metrics through sometimes. Like for example, that sort of amount mined metric in the MER was labeled in ISK, not in M3 or anything like that. Like that's a classic example, right?
Right.
Like, that's a classic example of the metrics that they release. That it's great, but it doesn't actually show you anything when you really think about it.
Yeah, it's true. There are metrics out there that you can measure and you can establish. I mean, KPIs. I mean, everybody does it in business across the world. They should be able to do it as well, both user-oriented, right? If they have a KPI that said, hey, by the end of this year, we were going to have more active Omega players or more active players, right? I'd like to see that metric, right? And see if they really achieved it, because I bet it's better than even money that metric's gone down. Right.
I think one of the major flaws of CCP is that they keep chasing numbers that does not exist, right? They keep trying to increase numbers metrics-wise that are not actually going to create revenue streams for them. They think that there's more capacity, and this game is a niche game. It's got a very hardcore, unique selling point, and they have the players that are potentially ever going to play EVE the way EVE is played right now. So you can't chase numbers on things like concurrent players. That makes no sense. You need to monetize in a different way, and the reason way they're doing that is just this whole vanity bullshit skin stuff. It's like, why are you doing this? This is not going to work, because your skin stuff doesn't work. You're playing Barbies in space, and no one wants to play Barbies in space. If you want to play Barbies and have vanity things, give us avatars.
Well,
I like my skin, my ship's skin.
Yeah, 90% of the time you can't see it. Right?
I fucking see it.
90% of the time when you're playing.
Well, 90% of the time you're docked up in a station, man. Like that's why you're not seeing it. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I haven't been playing great, like loads, sort of recently. But like, I'm in space and I'm in fleets every so often. When I am in fleets, I do see. When you have 40 Ravens, 50 Ravens, or well, maybe not 40, 50 Ravens, like 150 Ravens, like sitting on a Titan, you can tell the ones which are skinned and the ones which aren't, and they look pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just a vanity item creep, right? We just get more and more skins. We can't even fucking figure out how to manage our collections of skins if we're a collector. We can't even be able to properly browse the skins because the UI for it is horrible. I think this is a slippery slope, and it's just undermining the game entirely. It's undermining the value of the skins that are in the game, that they just keep churning them out. It's just exactly like playing WoW, where we just get new items at end level and new item levels endlessly. It's like, okay, so everything else is now just fallowed and dead.
I figured out something, Scythe. Your transition ideas. Like, we got one of them wrong. Like, it shouldn't be why is Scythe mad?
Oh, it's why is Caleb. Why is Caleb's panties in a bunch? Yes. That's the new transition. I was sitting there. I'm going. Oh, I was working on it, McLeod. You just made me. We had to bring it up early.
So
I'm sorry to.
So we've got about 20 minutes left here in the show, and by the way, we can go long because just in case anybody doesn't know, the Meta Show is canceled today. They are off on hiatus for Christmas.
I have my red shirt. Hold on, I'm back. Oh, and
You
I'm
can do a
not,
slightly
Yeah.
longer Christmas
You're
special.
not on video. What does it matter that you're in a red shirt or not?
I'll go put the red shirt on. Then.
I've got the black golf shirt. I'm in. This is my new thing. So
FYI, I'm sorry that I segued so hard there, Caleb.
so
But I know you're making a
very
point. I know you.
frustrated over the fact that they keep doing things worse and worse. The latest one is these strange, I call it forced food porn bullshit with the social media, where they want us to go and take screenshots or create GIFs and shit like that. It's like, Jesus Christ, content creation like that on a meta level. We've been doing this for 10 years. We don't need some newbie developer to come around and tell us what to do and give us some sort of bullshit price incentive for it. We know how to do these things. There are dedicated people that are just doing screenshots. We have some amazing people affiliated with INN that only do that, right? And why do you have to make this? Yeah, it is forced food porn selfie bullshit.
forced food porn.
I do
scary.
get where you're coming from, definitely.
I just got so angry at these things. It's so low brow. It's so dumb. It's this whole click like on our things. It's like, Jesus Christ, what is this? Is it Facebook?
Yeah, you're gonna be able to roll over on people's like ships soon, and it'll come up with like a like or dislike button.
Yeah, let's remove kill marks and put like buttons on.
Your kill marks are so sexy.
Oh,
Like-
so much sex.
Oh no, we can click on love for that, right? Love your
Here's
kill
a friggin'
marks.
thumbs up launcher.
No, you just how many wizards hats does this?
I'm
ship?
surprised there isn't. I'm surprised there isn't a thumbs up and thumbs down kind of button on the keyboard yet.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of standings and then just use likes instead.
Okay.
Hey, Apex said
That
don't
will
laugh
be a
because it's
better
coming.
System because that would make sense.
You gave
I-
CCP the idea.
Today, Goons post
Goons will
freaking
just
test.
be. Goons will be like -10.
We'll have so much negative
literally
red
take
karma,
that
it'd
from
be
Pandemic
amazing.
Legion.
Yeah, Yaz says he wants to buy kill marks. It's coming. Right.
Goodbye,
I want to customize my kill marks.
That's right. That's right.
Actually, if you're gonna do anything customized with kill marks, let your alliance or your corp make
Beetlejuicing
it like
bad
choose how many
ideas.
what the kill marks look like.
Hippie dude's
so
like
many proof
Beetlejuicing
emojis.
bad ideas. It's funny. It's funny.
It's
A lot
just
of
to
bad
me, it
ideas.
feels
I
like
want
a
Luminous
panic,
coming.
right? It feels as if CCP are panicking. They don't really know what the fuck they should do, and they're just rolling out
kind
one dumb thing after another. And it's like, okay, have you considered asking the CSM and the player base, and then listening for a proper, sane consensus and argument instead of just voice democracy bullshit?
It's just like, you know, all the chantings of in like Reddit kind of thing, and they're like, oh right, we need to make some.
And that's when it started.
Like-
When they started hanging around Reddit, the actual devs started using Reddit. That's when it went downhill. That's when they started doing all these dumb things.
I think they need to figure out that, like, you know, you have to understand that, like, Eve is one of these games where, like, it's based on the adage of build it and they will come. Don't go try and find them and then build it. Like, build it.
I don't
and they
think
will come.
CCP understands Reddit. I think they really misunderstand it completely. They don't understand that it's actually shit posting. It's
I
not
think-
serious. It's people
Yeah.
going, oh, I'm going to write some horrible shit that's just going to trigger everyone, and they're just going to pile on and dislike it. And it's like, that's the point of Reddit. It's not being
triggering
sane.
memes.
Nothing sane goes on fucking Reddit.
Reddit is just triggering and memes, and if it's the only time when it's not triggering and memes is when it's like an official post on a Reddit for some, like, you know, where the only time when it's not like triggering or memes is basically when, like, it's a redirect to a dev blog that CCP have posted. Like, it's really pretty much the only thing.
Yeah, and Morgash brings up a point, right? CCP has been overtaken by their player base when it comes to understanding their own game, and that's true.
Next, we're going to see Seraph being hired as the next community manager.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So here's one thing that you said earlier, Caleb. And you said that, and a lot of people say this, right? EVE Online is a niche game, right? It's a niche game, right? Only certain people would ever want to play this game. I actually think that if it's marketed appropriately, that it wouldn't be such a niche game, right? And if CCP falls into that mode of thinking, they truly are winding down the game then from a business perspective, right?
I just came up with a new transition because we fucking say this shit every week. Is CCP needs to learn how to fucking market. So it'll be let's complain about CCP marketing.
No.
Why?
We should do the opposite. We should give them a suggestion for a really good marketing ploy at each show.
Well, let's
CCP
put
marketing
it this way.
suggestions.
We've
Like
said this
CCP's
one before.
marketing strategy.
Guess what was just in the movie theaters premiering, right? Star Wars. Fucking ships in space blowing the fuck out of each other on a constant basis in every movie, right? Guess what? A fucking Eve trailer running as an ad before those. I don't know what they do in Europe, but they run ads before the movies in the movie theaters in the US. I mean, why the fuck wasn't there an Eve Online ad before that?
You know
That's
how
very
much that would
true.
cost? That's like Super Bowl level payment for a freaking ad.
So they don't even need to market at every.
You don't need.
theater.
Yeah, you don't need to
You
market
at
it.
individual theaters. So market it at the theaters like the Alamo Draft Houses, the Cinebistros, that kind of thing. Where literally, if you go to these theaters after like 4 p.m, you have to be 21 or older to get into the fucking building, and they make a shit ton of money doing it. Because they're like restaurant, bars, and theaters.
Can I just give you an
Market at
example
those,
of
because
a
that's
little
the age
bit?
group they want.
There's some low-hanging fruit that CCP is not banked on at all. They've not banked on the fact that one of the most popular economists in the world has actually studied Eve from a financial perspective. There is no actual marketing going on at universities, even though we know that when it comes to things like spy work, social engineering, economics, ecology, all these topics that are totally highbrow in the universities, but they're not trying to market there. I could easily see someone like Aerith or anyone in the financial area of Eve actually doing a proper presentation, or even the Mittani, going out to universities and actually presenting what Eve is. And this wouldn't be extremely costly.
Dude, it's a social simulator. I mean, yes, I know it has an extremely well put together, like economic and sort of market simulator. Like I've known that for a long time, but like Eve is an amazing social simulator as well. Like the amount of like psychological kind of papers that you could probably write about like the social interactions between groups and between individuals in Eve, in relation to Eve, is just, you could probably do a ton of fucking awesome stuff and like from a research kind of point of view.
Like, why don't CCP actually contact someone like Yanis Varoufakis and say, could you come and do a presentation at FanFest about virtual economies and your study of EVE Online and how it relates to the real world? That would be one of those things that when that got recorded, it would have been viewed by everyone in the fucking financial world within a few months, right? And it's the same with, if I could invite someone like Aerith to come out and talk in the financial department as a guest lecturer at my university, that would be awesome. And in most cases, when it comes to guest lecturers in Denmark, there's actually membership payment for those guest lecturing. So they get pretty well paid, and people actually pay to go and see that.
Dude has a point. I can see that. Eve ads on campus up 200% and final grades down 600%.
I like Andy Rocks. He learned English because of Eve. That's kind of cool.
Did you guys see the... okay, this is a little bit of just beating goonsplaining, right? But did you guys see the presentation that...
I'm gonna sit back in my chair and I'm gonna goon spread right here.
Kid goonsplaining needs to be a transition.
But the point is that the Mittani did, I think it was IDC, right? The game, what's it called? IDDC, the Game Developers Conference. He did a presentation about the game and all that stuff, right? And it was really highbrow, very fucking academic. Something like that should be on fucking tour, right? Instead of CCP sending their devs to those echo chamber game developer conferences. Yes, anyone that's in game development knows about Eve. It's been around for 15 years. It's like mandatory fucking studies in the curriculum. You don't need to go there. You need to go where people don't know about you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Captain Cabinet, by the way, said like that, like like that we shouldn't really target more niche place, but more mass market stuff. But the issue with like targeting mass markets is the fact that like no, if you've ever seen like a product targeted to a mass market, most things in a mass market situation don't have any longevity. Basically, what happens is the mass market may pick it up for like, you know, a few days, or, you know, they'll pick it up at a very short period of time, and then, you know, it ends up being, you know, you end up being a one-hit wonder. So that's basically what the one-hit wonder thing is about.
You can't mass market.
It's a mass market.
You have to expand.
It's picked up and then dropped as quick.
But you have to expand a niche product to saturate any potential, right? You need to go where your potential segment and niche clients are. You can't expect a niche product to suddenly become mainstream just because you start marketing it to mainstream. It will never become mainstream. The only thing that remotely resembled EVE going mainstream was when they started talking about brand integration. Who was it? The dev that got fired. Anyways, but the whole thing with integrating Dust, integrating Nova, integrating walking in stations, integrating Valkyrie, all these things, when they start talking about that, then you have a lot of brands that can actually be mass marketed. Then it's no niche game anymore. But then it's a huge universe and cosmology of brands. It's not just EVE Online. And then everyone in EVE Online starts screaming, well, they're not spending money on our game. Yeah, well, but they're trying to make more money so they can actually spend money on your game, you moose.
So I'm gonna disagree with some things here, right? Because you know I don't agree with the niche market thing, right? There are things within EVE because it has such a breadth of offerings within the game that can be the guy that picks it up for a month or two, or, you know, keeps playing on an alpha account and buys training in different ways, right? I think that's all available. There are parts of the game, certainly if you want to live in SOV, that's going to be more of a niche market, right? But it's where all the activity is anyway.
I think all the trends lately about pulling out the in-game browser, pulling out the captain's quarters, all these things have basically reduced any potential ambition of CCP to expand EVE Online as a game when it comes to segments. Yeah. They are reducing it and making it even more niche. I don't know if that's because they want to put the expansion on the outside with this new MMORPG game they're developing, but that is actually a good choice to do that and then figure out how to do brand integration. But I don't think that everyone has something they can do in EVE. There is the exception that if you join Fort Delve, you will be socially integrated. They will be able to figure out what your real life skill set is and then apply that to an EVE profession. But that's not really a valid marketing ploy. That the only thing that's actually good marketing in EVE right now is goons. The only thing that's healthy for the EVE ecology is when goons do their huge interdiction events things, because no one else wants to fight above what is actually risk, right? They are just fighting with bare minimum losses.
Well, that's what we're doing right now, right? And who is it? Kresh says we need a drunken idiot spouting things off. We've been drunk before on this show.
Drunken idiot from spouting things off.
And we love her.
We do need one. Oh, that's supposed to be me, but I'm not drunk enough.
Yeah. So,
damn it. You had one job, Scythe. One job.
Hold on. The Tito's is down. It's happening.
There you go.
This is not about echo chamber, the whole goons planning thing. It's not echo chamber. This is something that is perfectly valid, and I can argue this from a perspective that has nothing to do with the fact that I like goons. The reason I like goons is because they do things for the game. When they say we're not here to destroy the game, we're here to destroy your game, that's an actual valid fucking argument. That's exactly what they're doing.
Well, yeah, but you have to take that in context too, right? We want to either make the war that we're fighting against you something that you don't want to fight. That's all that means, right? It doesn't mean that we want you to quit EVE, and a lot of people interpret it that way, right? We don't want anybody to quit EVE.
They actually want people to stay in EVE.
We love this game. We want more people to play EVE. Just be on our side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the problem, I think the tragedy is that there is no one else in EVE that is trying to play the same way that goons play. So there is no contention. There is no one challenging the existing power and Rome, right? So you just have one big Roman Empire, and everyone else is just vassal states, or I don't know.
Yeah,
you make sense. It's a good point.
Yeah, with 5 minutes left, and we are going to go over. We're going to go into Meta Show time because the Meta Show is on hiatus this week for those tuning in, and we're going to keep going. But this is a much more negative show than I thought it was going to be. But what we wanted to do, we wanted to make a little bit of an announcement.
We can go into positives, man. Like we got the time to go into positive stuff.
Oh yeah, I think the positive trend would be if someone would actually get their shit together and start developing a competitor to Goons. But you can't do that if you don't have the proper culture, right? And as I was kind of mentioning it earlier with the whole thing with a new player comes into EVE, and if they join Goons, they will ask, what do you do in real life? They will start integrating them socially. They will figure out how to apply that skill set in something that they will find interesting, right? If you do that in the other groups, it's all fucking FC dominant, who's the biggest drill sergeant screamhead.
Well, yeah, and let me finish what I was going to try and say there. More about the show, right? So we want to make the announcement about the show. So I don't know if it's this week or next week, right? But this week or next week will actually be the last Whiskey Gaming show on INN. We're going to rebrand the show, just so everybody knows. We're going to call it Push to Talk. Caleb came up with a great name with Nice Trick and a couple other people. And we're gonna have sections of the show talking about EVE and section of the show talking about other things within the gaming industry, which actually was more the original concept of Whiskey Gaming. And we've got a bunch of people working on that rebranding, and we're actually going to come into play 2 hours earlier. So it will either start after next week, or next week we'll start that. We'll have some announcement out there on what we're doing with the show. But since Talking in Stations doesn't happen, and this show falls right into the fireside chat for Goonswarm, we wanted to move the time to make that more palatable and rebrand the show a little bit. So I wanted to let the audience know that we are doing that, and that doesn't mean we're not going to drink, and we're still not going to try to have a drink of the week, but we will do stuff like that, and it will be fun. So that's what I wanted to say before the end of the official time of the show. And Caleb, go on with your rant.
Well, I was just trying to point out that I get this feeling of when it comes to culture and recruitment. Aerith said this on a show in the past, that what is the major aspect of success for Goons is the way that they eat up talent, right? They pretty much keep all the good stuff, and then they boot all the junk. And this is about meritocracy, right? It's the fact that if you have a skill set, or if you have a really strong passion, you will advance in the Imperium. That's the experience I have, even though I'm not entirely closely affiliated to Goons. But I just see this every single time. And the people that run things in Goonswarm is someone that either has extreme experience in the game, or have real life skill sets from professional life that they are applying in the game. And you just don't see this elsewhere. You don't see CTOs or lawyers or something like that running NC or Darkness. It's pretty much, well, let's not get personal, but it's not people that are successful in real life.
Well, I don't know whether they're successful in real life or not, right? I mean,
I'm talking upper echelon administration, management, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My point is that you don't want a drill sergeant to be a president.
That's true. That's true. There is a lot of hands off in Goons to the directors, right, of their divisions, right?
And they're so good at what they do, because it's usually something that they've all either acquired over an extremely long period of time in EVE. You can get really good at stuff just playing EVE. Plenty of players have actually gone from EVE into professional life and have made a huge success of using the skill sets they learned in EVE.
Well, I mean, when it comes to Imperium and sort of Goons and stuff like that, the leadership style, the leadership kind of structure has been cultivated for a long period of time. It's basically like it's one of those sort of things that stands the test of time, because it's not been so rigid as to basically not be able to learn from its mistakes. And I mean, not gonna lie, like Goons and Goon leadership have had their fair share of mistakes, big and small, but they've learned from them. That's the thing.
They always come out a little bit better, a little bit smarter, right? So it's evolution, and feels to me like the rest of Eve have devolved instead of evolved.
Yeah, I mean, there is also this other aspect of like, you know, you're either one side or the other side of the the nullsec meta. So you're either part of the Imperium, in which case you fall into the sort of, into the framework of the Imperium and into the sort of the leadership structure of the Imperium, or you're on the other side and you're kind of. I kind of feel like that duality that goes on like is something that needs to change. Like there needs to be more than just two players in the nullsec meta. But like that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like when another one kind of tends to sort of rear its head, like like it has done. Like you've had the kind of situation where Test has tried to sort of be their own thing, and they're kind of like being their own thing to some degree at the moment. But Brave Newbies have like tried to be their own thing, but they like whenever that happens, like invariably one of the two, one of the big two basically comes around and squashes them.
I think it was Scythe that said he was doing one of those nice classical quotes in the last episode where he did the Sic Semper Tyrannis, or was that RJ? But the point is that getting rid of tyrants in Eve is not easy. You see how long it took for a proper failure with the whole judge thing, right? And that was actually incited from a coup of sorts, right? It's really, really difficult to get rid of those strong leaders that are basically just bullying everyone into submission, which is fine if you're doing a military organization, but if you're trying to build an empire, tyrants is not the way to go.
No.
Nope.
Well, some would say that there's a little tyrannicalness with how
you could be a tyrant.
Not
You
Mittens.
could Fest.
No,
You could be a tyrant, but you need to learn. You can be a tyrant, but you can't be one of those tyrants that just burns every single bridge on that you see around you. Like, and that is what Giggs kind of did. Like he pretty much just burnt every bridge that he kind of came across. Like, which was a bit of an issue. Like, you need to be a little bit more intelligent than just burning every single bridge. Like, you need to weigh out as to which bridge you need to burn at which time. He just burned every single bridge. And
I was gonna
be a
say
single ruler, right? I'm not saying that you can't be a single ruler. You can easily do that, but the mistake is that a tyrant is someone that is violently enforcing his role and is not even trying to hide the fact that he's doing it like that. Many will say, well, isn't Mittens a tyrant as well? Well, maybe, but if he is, he's more like Augustus Caesar than Julius Caesar, right? He is basically running a Pax Imperium right now.
I mean, if you haven't, I mean, if you didn't see the kind of the backlash from all the people in CO2, basically sort of fighting for Giggs and everything like that, like, think of it like look at it from their kind of perspective, like, from their perspective, Giggs was an amazing person. Like he Giggs was probably seen by them in the same way that die-hard goons see the Mittani. Like, so, in that kind of sense, like, there is a lot of, parity between it. But the issue is that, Mittens is a very good tactician in comparison to Giggs.
Yeah, I was gonna go a different direction there.
Also, just a genuinely nice person in real life, so and he's charismatic, so people kind of flock to him a little bit.
But it's also stick versus carrot, right? Are you ruling with stick or with carrot or with both, right? And I think Mittens rules with both, but he does not necessarily allow the same level of sycophants to actually advance. At least not if they start failing, he will actually boot them. That's the difference I see.
Oh yeah.
But where I was going to go, some people may view Goonswarm as tyrannical, and I was going to give you an example, right? So if you step out of line or you become a little shitler, right? You're going to go, right? They're not going to tolerate that, right? There's a mindset inside of Goonswarm, right? That you try and do the most of what you want to do, but there are rules that you have to live inside so that this community operates appropriately, right? If you're gonna go and you're gonna, you know, scream and yell in the Alliance chat for 2 days, like we had some numbnut that joined our corporation do, right? Eventually, Marana's gonna say, "Get rid of this asshole." I'm like, I don't even read Alliance, right? I don't know what the hell's going on there. She said, "But I'm just like, they're gone, right? I'm not gonna mess with it."
But that's an important aspect, right? The whole cultural revolution and the fact that if you're female or gay or queer or trans or whatever, anything that's I don't know, at risk of being bullied, you will trend towards goons because it's almost become a safe space, right? The Cultural Revolution has made goon swarms so powerful, in my opinion, and post that, it's just a whole new world. But pre-Cultural Revolution, goon swarm was not that nice. It was pretty much as toxic as PL.
But you know what?
Like
well, it's funny that certain groups. It's funny that certain groups became, you know, a little bit more edgy, a little bit more kind of like extreme, a little bit more kind of, you know, that kind of, you know, yeah, a little bit more sort of extreme in sort of nature. After goons had that cultural revolution, it's almost as if that cultural revolution forced out certain people from goons into other groups, like say,
they are the ones
yeah, exactly.
Goons.
So
but that's a well-known thing. All the people that were toxic, all the people that got booted in the Cultural Revolution are now the ones that are basically inciting all the goons attitude. And it's also why the goons actually exploded after the Cultural Revolution, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, right? I mean, but it's part of the way society's moving too. And by the way, if some dude's willing to fly his spaceship beside you and shoot the enemy, what do you care, right? You don't care. Right? You just care that they're shooting and not you. Right?
They're shooting at someone
yeah.
who deserves it, and it's not
That's
you.
Right.
God.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I think the I mean, but I get a sense inside of Goon Swarm about some anti-goons out there watching the show are gonna be like, bullshit, right? That there is a desire to have fairness across the community inside.
That's just bullshit.
Yeah, bullshit. Right?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know.
That isn't the capitalist way.
People up in here.
I think the irony is that there's plenty of potential leaders that could actually have a leadership culture and an organization similar to goons. Not necessarily of the same size, of course, because that takes a fucking decade to build. But there is actually people capable of doing this and organizing like this. There are also people out there that are perfectly capable of playing the Aerith game when it comes down to it. Of course, not on scale, because they do not have 30,000 goons crabbing for them. But there are people that are perfectly capable of running that level of macroeconomic meta gameplay. It's just doing it with a lot smaller groups.
I don't know, man. The Chinese are coming.
The what?
The British. How many?
The Chinese are coming.
The Chinese.
If they come in Minotaur ships, we'll light 2 lanterns. We'll put them up in the Delve Keep Star.
Well, let's put it this way. So there's 2 factions in the Chinese group, right? And one of those factions that is already over here is already in Goons, right? So
4,000, right?
Right. So,
yeah, but there's also another faction there, sort of rallied against or basically being kind of tempted to the dark side or the light side.
I just want more people to play this game, right? And I wish that I wish that I were seeing things from CCP that showed me that they were intent on expanding this game, right? I don't see that sort of effort from CCP. What I see from a business perspective is a wind down, to be honest.
Unless they are consolidating everything and trying to bet on the whole new MMORPG thing.
The thing is, I think
might actually go into AR instead of VR.
I think they're just disheartened by the fact that they've tried a whole bunch of different things to basically expand the expand the world of EVE Online, to expand the kind of the theme, the kind of that kind of thing, and it hasn't really worked. Like the thing that was probably the most likely to work. I fail at English. The most likely kind of thing to work there. Was
Dust.
Not Dust, was Valkyrie, right? And Valkyrie seemed to be going pretty well. And then when Valkyrie launched and they went and they decided to also, you know, put it onto PC, they were kind of expecting a whole bunch more people to be playing on PC, and it really did not materialize.
Because
Well, you
they
didn't have the
rolled it out-
same
they didn't roll it out the right way. But the
Yeah,
what the
yeah,
main
but
problem
even
that
so.
PvP is suffering from, in my opinion, is the generational gap. The fact that the developers they have today are not necessarily the ones that played pen and paper in the past, so they don't have the experience of what happens if you are consistently running a multi-hall caper where you're basically giving your players everything they want. So they, in the end, they don't care about the cost of anything in their gameplay, right? And oh, you gave me a new Volpul sword +5. I'm just going to put it over in my collection because I already had 3 of those. It's like, that's the way you've designed the game. They just keep funneling and fauceting shit into the game, and they're making it easier and easier, and it's not playable. This is where most pen and paper campaigns, when you reach that point, people reset and they start over. Level 1 character is over.
That's when GM says, make dex save against falling rocks, everyone dies.
Pretty much, exactly that. And that's just...
As the pen and paper heavy guy here, I fucking have to do that all the time, because I'll go, oh, this is an interesting magic item. Oh, fuck, I may have fucked up here. I've just given them a god stick. You know?
Pretty much, and when you've done that, it's so difficult to take it back. You can't like make a campaign where you then destroy them or power them down, because then they're just going to be even more pissed. So what you usually do is you just kill them all. It's like server fucking reset.
Actually, I do the actual campaign where they power them down, where I throw them in a dungeon where these types of magics don't work. You're fucked. Good luck.
Yeah, and if you fail, you can always send them to the Dark Sun world, right?
When in doubt, everyone has been transported to the elemental plane of fire. They all die.
So, I've been kind of quiet. Let me chime in on this because I've been
RJ's
hearing
our
that,
corner. Let's do it.
I have the talking stick.
Oh, not this again, Jesus.
You're about to lose the talking stick.
I'm going to make a little talking stick icon and move it around.
I'm on vodka shot 5 right now because someone said we needed a drunk guy yelling things, so I'm working on it. Hold on.
So as I sit back here, I listen to all this and I take a lot of this in, right? And since I just had my college lobotomy and I got my thing last week,
congratulations!
His thing.
Thank you. But one of the biggest things I learned in the 2.5 years I was in school for this thing, because it was accelerated, was if you want a game to actually be good and actually have some froth to it or whatever, there's got to be something in there for the story. You have to have something in there that's interesting, right? Right now, I see no fucking story, and I'm a big guy with storyline. So, like, I mean, even you can play numbers and papers and pads and whatever and whatnot, but there's still a story behind it. So in this case right now, it's like, what the fuck happened to all the Drifter stuff that was fucking coming out? What the hell happened with all those fucking trailers where they would release those little news tidbits? Even I was waiting and chomping at the bit for that to see what was going to fucking happen, and that kept me interested. So right now, it's like there's none of that. It's all this freaking numbers, this, gotta fix this over here, blah, 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 this. It's all this mechanics type stuff. What is keeping people fucking interested in this game? Absolutely nothing right now, because there's no story.
There's no story and there's no skin.
You know what? You know what happened?
Something controversial as fuck, but they might need to hire some devs from BioWare. Honestly, just to try and get a starting point of how to.
Yeah, they don't need more devs. They need fucking writers.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. You need to hire guys who are making shit from BioWare, and hire some guys from Witcher. They
they're really. Right? You know what actually happened with the Drifters, right? You know the reason why that kind of suddenly just disappeared.
The sleepers.
Because no, it wasn't the sleepers. They basically they built up to this kind of the kind of the storyline up until this point where basically Drifters were going to be coming in fleets, going and killing a bunch of stuff, but someone somewhere didn't before they decided to go that particular route with the storyline. No one actually decided to say, guys, is this actually technically possible before we go this route? And so they just went the route. They just went the route, and then when they went right, there's going to be a bunch of Drifter battleships going around, doing all the things that you kind of see on the Saido, but in multiple areas all around, everywhere, in high sec, low sec, and all that kind of stuff.
And I do.
They couldn't do it.
Agree with,
they literally couldn't do it.
I do completely agree with what RSG's saying out in freaking chat right now. There's a big part of this game that is actually player-driven story. But you can't just have completely player-driven story because it will stagnate, and you'll see what we're seeing right now because of, I'll say it, fuck FozzieSov. Seriously, that's why it's
a major part of that is the reason. But you can see it in the panic with the please players, won't you do your selfie stick thing? It's like no, we don't. We don't feel like making content because you fucking broken the game.
If we'll selfie stick when there's
33 for the last follow. By the way,
like, oh, nice.
Oh yeah, KCHAR33. Yes, thank you very much.
I mean,
for the follow.
Like, we'll selfie stick stuff if there's stuff that we feel like it's worthwhile selfie sticking. But we're not going to selfie stick stuff that we see every day, all day.
I'm going to call another timeout. Okay,
timeout.
We're not a group of fucking millennials. Okay, we're not going to selfie stick. Okay.
FYI, I want a pair of shears. I can just like cut selfie sticks in half.
I mean, seriously.
I have those. It's called a pair of pliers. You just squish it.
If I have a stick that's going to hold something, it's that stupid old person stick that they use to get things off the high shelves, right?
I thought it was the stupid old person stick they used to hit those like wooden wheels down the street with.
No, they hit kids like you with it. And get down.
The worst is I have one of those old people sticks that you grab shit off high shelves with because I'm too tall. I use it to grab stuff off the floor.
If I offended a bunch of millennials, I'm really sorry because you're not.
Eric,
don't be sorry.
Delve is now developed into a gold rush nation where there's an infinite supply of gold. So you can join it and you can either grab your gold every single day, or you can start doing all the speculation stuff with an infinitely exponential fucking growth curve where no one is competing with what Delve is doing with the markets, right? So it's just trillions and trillions, hand over fist, no end to it because CCP has not put in any stop.
I would like to say that. I would like to say that if you are one of those people who have joined Goonswarm to crab and not go on any kind of fleets and then get like ganked in your 20 walk walls by then don't expect any love or any sympathy from anybody.
No love.
That was one of the fucking greatest things that happened. I'm like, why did we lose? Oh, it's one dude and he's a fucking idiot. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his fits are.
That was a mercy.
Right? Look at his fits. They're so shit. Like they're awful.
Here's the thing. There is always an ebb and flow in EVE, right? There's a time when you're gonna milk the system and get a bunch of cash, right? And then after you get a bunch of cash, then you go out and spend it by going to fight somebody. The problem is
there's no need to fight.
Well, not only is there no one to fight, nobody wants to fight that way, and it's the FFS, right? Fuck FozzieSov, right? It sucks. Okay, give me something that I can blow up and have fun with. Right?
Surprise! Small gang combat doesn't work on a large scale.
Shit! Are you kidding? No shit.
Then CCP actually developed something that worked, right? They fixed the pause bullshit, right? They put in structures that are pretty well coded, really, when you start looking at the design, right? But then they make them invulnerable, so you don't even have the return to DominionSov. It's like, okay, you have something that could have fixed FozzieSov, but you've not activated it. You've made them totally impossible to take down because it takes 2 weeks of dedicated activity to take them down.
Well, when you think about what people want to put into them, right? So you have a mentality that you have to slowly shift, right? So you had stations that you could just take ownership of, right? And if you had enough shit in them, you could always fight to get ownership back and then get your shit out of there and evac it, right? With Citadels, right? You would not have adoption of Citadels if players had too much fear that what I put in the Citadel is going to get blown up and I'm going to lose it, right? I'm paying real money for this stuff, right?
Okay, proportionally, I agree with you, except that the price point of structures, except for Keepstars, is so low, both in how long it takes to build them and how much they actually cost, that it is actually not a real loss, right? It's extremely low level of loss. You can say a fort is a little bit expensive, but not if you're just like 5 or 10 people. You're perfectly able to tank losing a Fortisar every month.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't lose them that often, right? I mean,
no, of course not. I'm just saying that you can tank that loss every single month on your activity level and your profits alone.
What do you guys kind of think if you could actually capture Citadels as well? Like you had this, like if you had a dual kind of system where you could either blow up the Citadel or capture the Citadel. Like
I thought that was originally supposed to be a choice, whether you wanted to freaking finally kill it or actually like explode it or actually take it. I thought that was supposed to be a thing.
Well, that's where you should they should consider linking surrender to the asset safety. So you don't get asset safety if you don't surrender.
Yeah, that's actually I kind of like that.
That's pretty cool, actually.
I mean, let's put it this way: citadels are something that became too easy to spam everywhere, right? I mean, if you try and get rid of all the fucking citadels in Delve, oh my god, God help
okay,
you.
okay. If you look at this on a proportional level, and I think I mentioned this before, if CCP is doing this protection racket thing on citadels right now because of the proliferation, they might actually need a little bit more proliferation until they're on par with NPC stations and conquerable stations. So you might need maybe another 3 months of protection, and then after that they should actually be easier to destroy, and then they will go into a whole new ecosystem. So there might be some sanity to what they're doing. It's just that they're not announcing it, they're not saying that's what they're intending to do, so we can't fucking even know if they are just sitting on their thumbs doing nothing.
Well, I imagine they're not sitting on their thumbs doing
There's
nothing.
a couple of the
Like,
devs I'd like them to just sit on their thumbs and do nothing, but you know, they should remain nameless.
Let's get off
James
Ozzy's
rhymes with schmozzy.
No, we're not saying names. It's just,
I
Named
didn't
after a
name
bear.
names. I
yeah, I
didn't
know.
name any
Caleb
names.
named
Waka
names.
waka.
Well, maybe
Remember
for
names.
him, it might not be the same one I'm talking about. No, but we're getting new Citadel mechanics, right? So if you're not actively using your Citadel to actually do something, right, you're going to have less ability to keep it safe, right?
Yeah, it's gonna go down to like, is there like one timer, or I think that's just one timer or something.
Yeah, if you're not burning fuel and fueling it and doing all that stuff, right?
It's what CCP forgot. This game is a simulator game. And yeah, you can say, well, but it still needs to be fun and a game. It's true, but a lot of the mechanics needs to be very slightly realistic, right? So something like the patchwork fix bullshit where they add things like jump fatigue. Like, well, you don't need jump fatigue if you've actually balanced and made it more simulation-based. So there's a fuel tank, and there's a point of no return for the actual range that these things can jump. And if you don't have any logistics bringing you more fuel, you're going to be stuck if you get past the point of no return, right? Things like that would have solved force projection ages ago, but it was all the, oh, that's complicated. That's going to be difficult. I don't want to bother with managing fuel. Well, it's a lot more fun than managing fucking fatigue.
Fucking space aids.
No, but seriously, a cargo plane have a lot more range than a fucking jet fighter. This is a known fact, and if you start pushing your afterburner, you're going to run out of fuel a lot faster. And that's the type of design that they should have put into jumps instead. That would have made a lot more sense. It would also have created local markets and a lot of emergent behavior, but they opted with a easy solution, lowbrow, stupid thing.
Yeah, that is true.
The meta show people is canceled for today.
Yep.
Yeah, today
Also,
Eric
if you
is
can't tell,
your
Drunk-
leader.
Drunk has hit Scythe at this point.
Oh yay!
Moomin!
Yeah. Hold on, I do one more shot.
Hey, hey, Moomin,
At
come on.
6 shots in under
Easy.
30 minutes.
Down, boy. Boat is looking
Moomin
slow.
will fight you. Don't make fun of Boat. Boat's fucking hilarious.
He's
Fight
not
you.
making fun of Boat. He's just being typical Moomin. He's fun. He's fun. I love Moomin. He's one of my favorite people in EVE, by the way. Just so
Moomin
everybody
gets
knows.
a pass, apparently.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because you know him. We know what he's saying.
I
man.
know-
He's
I
a
know,
different
I know.
guy. He's funny.
I'm just being a butt.
So, yeah, we didn't even know how much longer we're going overtime. Do we have any other topics?
We're
we
just
beat,
gonna
we
go
beat
until
the
we get
shit
more.
out of this topic.
Marathon.
Everybody hates
I mean,
CCP.
to be fair, yeah, but to be fair, we've been going an hour and a half just on Eve. Like,
Yeah, it's true.
just.
Well, I'm going to say that I started playing 7 Days to Die again, and I'm having a kind of a blast on one of the servers.
I know you posted that shit. I'm like, God damn it! I'm gonna have to because I want to play something.
I don't know if they've been developing it, doing anything new or interesting or good. I don't know that they have, but I just want to play, and I've got a cool server, and it's fun.
I keep getting messages from people like, hey, you should come back to WoW. I'm like, fuck you.
Well,
Not come
I
back
must,
to World of Warcraft.
I will admit that one of the reasons I'm a little bit butthurt is because I wanted to take the time to maybe go and look for another MMO just to have a little bit of fun and casually play that until I burned out on it. But when I went to MMORPG and looked at the list and the hype meters and stuff, it's like, there's nothing there. And I was just face disking like crazy. There's nothing new, nothing entertaining. It's all the same old bullshit games. And EVE is even on the top 20 in the hype meter. It's like, Jesus Christ, a 15-year-old game is still in the top 20 on hype. Like, how pathetic is that? There's
That's because everybody's developing on these.
EVE is good. EVE is like, honestly, if you take a break from EVE for quite a while and then you come back to it, you're gonna realize that EVE is actually it's a fairly good game.
It's still the best game around. There's nothing out there.
We do like to nitpick. We do like to moan and complain about where it's going, etc., and what CCP are doing and stuff. But like, when push comes to shove, I would
no
play
alternatives.
Exactly.
Hey, if you
it's not like that we don't have alternatives. We do have alternatives.
Hold on, real quick. Let's answer,
but they alternatives and
question in chat. Twisted Yuri. Goons have a clan pretty much in everything.
Yeah.
You just need to go on our forums, and there's literally a forum post for all of the other games we play. And we, like I said, literally we probably have, if it exists, we probably have a clan on.
And
although to be fair,
the intention of this show when it rebrands to try and cover some of that activity as well.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, I would say that all of the effort that Goons put into making something or making a community in H1 was just Wolfenort. It died. The game was terrible.
The game was terrible. I wanted to love that game so bad. It was terrible.
But back to McLeod's argument, right? It's the joke that we might cheat on EVE from time to time and try and play other games, but we keep ending up back home, right? Because there is nothing else that's even remotely of the same caliber.
But that's
There's
my
nothing
point.
quite like home.
That's why, it's fucking spaceships. There's no other game that does spaceships there's no other game that does gaming like this. And the potential for this game is gigantic.
I think it's the long-term history stuff. The fact that things matter in EVE. The fact that when you come back, you have missed stuff that you're going to have to catch up on. Someone's going to tell you about it, and you're going to go, oh, fuck, why was I not actually around? I better stay a little bit longer so I'm actually in there for the next big
I'm going to ask a simple question to you guys. Does anybody in this group play World of Warcraft?
I actually went back to it when fucking Legion got released, and then I played it for 2 weeks, and I was fucking bored already. And guess where I came back to?
Hey, well, hold on. My question in saying that is, how much have the graphics changed?
Not at all.
Not at all.
That's
how much have the graphics changed and the look and feel of EVE changed, just from a physical perspective of the artwork? How has that changed over 15 years?
I need a fucking towel.
Okay, they keep the game looking fresh. It doesn't look dated.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the point is that some of the things that's been happening over the last 7 years have dated the feeling of it. It doesn't feel as alive as it did in the past. Of course, there's been some really awesome events. Like, I would not have missed the Casino Wars. That was amazing, right? But but that's player created, and I don't think that CCP has actually supported any mechanics or new things that players can then create emergent behavior and gameplay with.
Yeah, and Arrow Sites says, hey, they've gone up, but I'm talking about when you actually look at the screen and it still looks like the cartoon that it started out as, right? Whereas EVE started looking kind of fluffy, kind of potatoey, and now you've got all the cool, clean, metallic lines. You've got interesting skins. So CCP has done well in that area to keep the game fresh. Where they have failed is exactly where Caleb says, right? They've got some internal systems that they have not let keep pace with everything else. And if they can fix those, it can be more than a niche game.
And seriously, to be fair, if you're talking about World of Warcraft, that should actually look like the movie now, in my opinion.
World of Warcraft is so fucking outdated graphics-wise. Like, it is so behind. But the thing with World of Warcraft that still makes it up to date and makes it look okay is the fact that they have a style and they've stuck to that style.
So
they're not going for like accuracy or anything like that. WoW has a specific art style they stick to, and it holds up. But it still looks like shit this day and age compared to everything else.
So
right, and I only bring that up because it's the gold standard, right? It had 12 million players at its peak, right, or more.
Some crazy.
And that's a big deal, right?
It's awesome.
But RJ, you were going to say something before I cut you off.
So on this whole thing here, I'm going to put on my freaking game artist hat. So here goes the hat. So yeah, they may have upgraded their thing and gone to their friggin' low poly to high poly modeling, and then high poly back down to low poly modeling, and so on. And they did that whole freaking cycle, but in the end, it's still hand painted, stylized freaking textures, and it looks like a freaking cartoon. That's it. That's pretty much it. They stuck with their freaking style, and they just changed the way how they made the models. But in the end, they're still using their low poly models. Whether it be like the old 3K models that they used back in the day, or 1K models, now that maybe they're using like 9K or 10K models for some of their hero shit. But it really doesn't matter. It looks the same.
Right.
It's just that those curves.
Just to comment on what Shifter said, the whole thing with Star Citizen and games like Elite Dangerous. The problem with those two is that if it's Star Citizen, that's pretty much like a modern version of EVE Beta, right? That's all it is, and then it's a Ponzi scheme. But besides that, and Elite Dangerous is like if you try to do EVE of the size that it is now as a copy of EVE, and then try to populate all that space, makes no fucking sense. You can't do it. You do not have the scale. It's like having an unsupported system. It's like without the NPC backdrop that we had in the first 3 to 4 years of EVE, where NPCs had a lot of the stuff that would become emergent gameplay from players, right?
Yeah.
On the thing with Star Citizen, I won't play that shit until they release freaking core. I'm not playing this alpha bullshit.
I have the alpha bullshit installed because I go on there and see what they've changed, but I don't sit there for hours at a time playing this stupid alpha. I go in there, I log into my ships, I see what the station looks like, I see what's happening gameplay wise, and then you just turn that shit off.
And to be fair, right, CCP should really make an effort of doing to Star Citizen what Star Citizen basically is trying to do to EVE, which is copying it. CCP should just do the same. Go and look what the Star Citizen fanboys really like about Star Citizen and put that in EVE.
It's a multi-tiered
Starship porn.
Like I've gone in there and checked it out.
Caleb, you actually just really like nailed the point home of put the walking in stations back in, incorporate Dust, incorporate Valkyries. That's Star Citizen.
Pretty much, and that's exactly what I have.
That's what it is. That's what the people wanted.
Brand unification, all the things pretty much linked together, not initially on a high level, but on a gradual level, pretty much doing what they did with EVE when EVE launched, right? Integrate things slowly. And when it comes to Dust, and that's why I'm hoping that this RPG thing is going to kick off, because if they do that, they will have all the players in the same thing. That's what Eric was talking about last time about the account thing. Have one unified account. So I am only having one account, regardless of whether I'm playing Dust, Valkyrie, Nova, Spark, whatever. All CCP brands, one account.
Yep. BattleNet, people. They need to go full BattleNet.
Indeed.
I love me some World of Warships though.
World of Warships is pretty tits.
That is a fucking amazing game. It's great fun too.
Yep.
And the engine
I get burned out on that shit though, real quick.
Yeah, I play for like 3 or 4 hours each day for about a week, and then I turn it off. I uninstall it.
Well, yeah. Then you go back to EVE.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
RJ, have you looked at Valkyrie now after the PC upgrade? There was an event thing the other night, and I just took a look, and engine-wise, it looks so fucking nice and smooth. It's got so much potential for all the things that we were dreaming about 5-10 years ago with the planet-side flying and all that bullshit.
Since I had a really bad last 2 months that I was really kind of busy or so, but when it actually got released onto PC proper without the VR, that's when I actually picked it up, and I actually did a couple hours in there. It looks really beautiful. They did it all in Unreal, which is fantastic because Unreal Engine and Unreal Editor is fucking beautiful. So I didn't get the chance to do the the ground assault thing or whatnot. I didn't get a chance to do that. I did some space flight in it, and I liked it. It was really good. It looks fucking amazing. If I could say if that was linked up to Eve, like, hey, I deploy my fighters and I got some other freaking schmoes flying around my fighters for me, that'd be fucking amazing.
So,
Yeah, hey,
CCP needs
deep dream,
to.
right? But what would be the first steps would be just adding planet activity, so it's kind of linked into Eve. You can do something that's not necessarily a sports or arena based fighting, but you can do something except outside of that realm, right? So it's like Nova. Nova looks like an okay shooter. It's just Eve does not really need a shooter. It needs an MMORPG where you can actually run around and do shit by yourself or with groups. But it's something that's more like Fallout on steroids, right?
So if I could take my freaking carrier, warp to a freaking planet, go down to the planet with my carrier, and freaking offload lower a loading ramp or something, and walk off my fucking carrier and start fucking around in the world, that would be super tits.
Exactly. That would be what gave you the massive hard-on, right? It's not also why, and they don't need to create all this content that is in games like Fallout. They only need to make things that are player created and emergent. So the aspects of Fallout when you build your own village and shit like that, this is the type of thinking they need to put in a game like that. Players will build it, and there's plenty of fucking planets where you can have activity. It would be a slow population of space from a walking station like perspective, right? Avatar-based game where the two things are linked, especially with accounts and with corporations and alliances and shit like that. Exactly what Dust was intended to be, except that Dust fucking failed on the exclusivity bullshit.
Yeah.
So Twisted just said something out there. Make PI where you drop to the planet and exploit it for yourself. How about this? How about go down there instead of the PI that we have here where it gives me fucking carpal tunnel? How about we actually have something like an RTS for freaking PI? Like something like maybe Command and Conquer style where you actually extract it that way.
Could be interesting. And Diesel was out there. Diesel 1975, right? He's a little miffed that we were saying that WoW's was bad. No, we brought up WoW in terms of its graphics is essentially has the same look and feel that it had a long time ago. And RJ actually, showed us through the actual technical piece of that. My point in bringing that up was to show people how CCP has really taken their graphics up several notches over the years to keep current and make the game look fresh, right?
So
that was the point of that.
I want to say something on the Dust and like the continual universe thing.
Sure.
It was literally, I sat there many times at I went by GameStop or something, like I should buy a used PS3 just so I could play Dust, because I always wanted to try it, but I kept hearing that, oh, they're not supporting it, oh, they're not really doing anything to advance the game, and I basically literally I was like, yeah, I'm gonna save my money because I see this dying in 3 months, and that's what happened. And I was like, God damn it, put it on the fucking thing your fucking client base is already on.
It's the same as Valkyrie, right? Why did they not give even just trial accounts? Let's just give all the Eve players a 3 months trial on Valkyrie, right? Then they would have had it populated massively, except that you had to fucking buy it.
Buy a year subscription to Eve, get a free copy of Valkyrie. How about
exactly
that?
Stuff like that. That's the fucking.
That'd be worth it to me. Their Valkyrie's only like $20-something or something like that. But I'm like, yeah, there you go, free bonus.
Yeah, from a business,
people would actually just forward by 12 months at least for their main, and then get that cheap thing on top, right?
Yeah, I understand you guys are talking to it from an inside out perspective, right? But I don't think that from a business perspective that was truly CCT's intent. Okay,
and that's why they failed, because they should have realized that their main core segment. Yes, it is, Eric. The main core segment of all CCP brands is the existing player base. It's not outside.
I get it, but that wasn't the intent from a business perspective. And if you had done it from the inside out, all you serve to do is cannibalize your own usage of your core game, right?
No. Because modern marketing is about word of mouth and rumor. That's worth more than any marketing campaign.
If you have a shrinking player base, in your core, that's not your target audience. Those games were specifically designed to be outside the core Eve base and to bring people into Eve.
Yeah,
that was the business.
The critical mass and the free marketing is from the existing player base.
You just cannibalize.
Yes, it is.
The problem, Eric, is with these other games that they're putting out.
Dust is a fucking lock to a console that
I get it. I get it.
That was dying. It was put on a dying console.
I am telling you guys what the business tactic was.
Yeah,
I understand
right?
I understand the business tactic, but it was a poor.
That's what I said. They failed miserably because they made bad business decisions, bad design
when you
decisions.
launch a new Star Trek movie, your main marketing is actually the existing fan base.
But that's a growing fan base. Eve is a shrinking fan base. It doesn't work the same.
Matter.
The other thing is when you're talking about
like one town than players in Eve in an entire country.
Well, that's not what Caleb was kind of like really talking about in that kind of sense. But what the big difference between a game that you play constantly and something like Star Trek, where you just watch episodes every so often or watch the new movie that comes out, is this is the reason. This is what Eric was talking about in terms of cannibalizing your own player base. Like people can only play a certain amount of time per day, per week, per month. If you're now like forcing them to sort of, well, I say forcing, like encouraging them to split that time between more and more titles, you might have more and more people playing it, but like they're playing it less, which means the interactions that they have in all of those games is less. And so you end up with the situation where people are going, Eve's dying.
Yeah, you don't want
the point
less
is
people
that
to log into Eve. You want more.
If you're doing a traditional marketing, right, and you're trying to say market an FPS for Eve, right, then you
can't
it's the same uphill. Can I finish? It's the same uphill battle that every FPS has, right? In Eve, if they just get one Eve player to play, that's an ambassador that can get the next 4 or 5 players into Eve, people that they know in real life or play with in other games that are now getting pulled into Eve. That's the only way you can market Eve games, because they cannot compete on level and quality. You can say that Eve's products are AA instead of AAA, but what makes people play them is that it's one universe, it's persistent, and it's with a fan base that's extremely dedicated.
That's why you bring other people in. You don't work from the inside out. It doesn't work.
Yes, it does, because you cannot market those 3 players that an Eve player will get into Eve. You can't market that outside because you're competing with other FPS games.
Sure, if you actually use a real engine.
Yeah, but then the cost is going to be extreme. Then you can't just make a AA. You have to make a AAA.
If you just eat your own dog food all the time, that's all you get. Okay, you have to go outside to other places and bring those people in if you want Eve to survive, right? Those are vehicles to bring people in. It is not a vehicle to further extrapolate the user base of Eve.
It's just
some people will play.
Everything you say is counter to what Google did. Google did exactly what I said, right? They used exclusivity, they used word of mouth, they used low marketing, all these things, and they grew to be the biggest fucking entity in the world, right? If you go back in Google history, that's exactly how they marketed, whether it was the rollout of...
Well, if you look at how Google started, they started on one Sun pizza box, right?
Yeah, and they had a rather mediocre product, but they had a really good algorithm. And that's what I'm saying.
They beat the shit out of Lycos, didn't they?
You just need the persistent gameplay that makes an FPS worth more than just a month of gameplay, right? That's all you need. You need something Eve-esque, and then people will stay in Eve, even if it's just a AA and not a AAA title.
Just wanting to reminisce.
Don't work, right? So
just wanting to reminisce really quickly, but I do remember actually when the first kind of time that I realized that Google was doing more than just being a search engine was when I got invited to basically have a Gmail account. And you couldn't just start a Gmail account. You couldn't just like go to Google, go to Google Mail, and then just sign up for a new account. You had to actually get invited by someone who already had a Gmail account.
And that's when something feels exclusive or special. And if it gets sold by an ambassador, you have a human connection to the game instead of an ad.
So I remember the days, the very early days of Google and Lycos and all of them, right? I'm actually the guy who figured out how to get Lycos' ad software to not serve 6,000 ads a minute. Well, they needed 6. They were getting 4. I took them to 8. 1,000 ads per second, right? So I'm pretty knee deep in that. We're not going to go into how all the search engines grew and what they did, because that would be just a conversation that might last another 3 hours. So it's not something I'm unfamiliar with, right? So one of my best friends at the time was the head of technology for Lycos, right? And I was there all the time. So yeah. So it's
just that the exclusivity and the cross-pollination marketing is free, or almost free. So that means that it's going to boost your conversion of marketing investments tremendously.
It's feeding off, extracting from your core game and your core player base does not work.
But that's not extraction, because it's not expansion. They are already going to.
Well, the thing is, Caleb. The thing is, Caleb, when you're talking about Google and stuff like that, and the services and all that kind of thing, like you can't draw a one-to-one comparison between what Google do or what Google did and what CCP could potentially do, because the way that Google's products integrate into people's everyday lives, like maybe not now, but like even back then when they were still starting up, like it still integrates. It used to integrate into your life fairly well. You can't say the same with how you play Eve and how Eve integrates with your life. It's one or the other pretty much, unless you're actually like in a higher level kind of leadership position, in which case you're not really interacting with Eve Online. You're interacting with all of the different communication platforms that keep you informed as to what's going on. Like that's the kind of fundamental difference between, how Google can kind of grow in the way that they grow, and how CCP can't really grow Eve in that particular way. If you get me.
But the point is that all these web-based mail services that existed, the reason that Google took it over entirely and is now so dominant with Gmail is because they did the exclusive rollout, special benefits. The quality of service that they could then offer was so much higher to these exclusive users, and they became the ambassadors. And when they then opened it and had capacity to open to the big market, then they were able to just outcompete, because they had all these ambassadors that were basically saying, why don't you just get a Google Mail, because all these other services are bullshit.
Well, there was some level of exclusivity and sort of bonuses that maybe not exclusivity, but definitely bonuses that you get if you were an ambassador to Eve. Like, you brought someone in, you'd get with a buddy invite, you'd get perks for for your account kind of thing. I think that's kind of gone away now, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think the main point is that someone is saying that it's cannibalism. It's kind of what Eric is saying as well. But it's really not. If the target of an FPS is to have something like in the realm of, 500,000 users, that's a massive expansion of the player base. And investing in making the existing EVE Online players your ambassadors and the selling point to a huge number of new players is just extremely cheap marketing.
I don't know.
I think we've shown it to be a failure in at least 3 different chances that CCP's tried to do it. So
I think they just need to get
many of us wanted to play Valkyrie but didn't choose to actually try it because of first the VR exclusivity, and then because they didn't give a trial period. You don't want to buy into a game that you don't really know if, especially in this day and age, people want some sort of trial, and especially an EVE player base that's used to almost free and trial-based gaming.
I kind of feel like the whole. If you're going to be making people, or if you're going to be encouraging people to be ambassadors for your, for your product, like I think you do need to kind of give them perks for it, and I think they've pretty much cut the perks out, right?
They just lost a huge opportunity, because I think a lot of players would like to play it, but even if they did a trial now, there's not the same hype, so you wouldn't see the same migration. So you would still have a lot of E players coming onto a semi-inactive game and say, okay, this is not that fun. There's not that many people around that I know or want to play with or against. So it's a failure. They had the opportunity, they lost it.
Well, there's also the other kind of thing is a lot of a lot of the hype surrounding games nowadays is based around people streaming the game, said game, and having people being able to basically experience that game in a streaming capacity without actually having to buy into it themselves, and then they can kind of look at it and go, "Oh, that looks quite fun," and then they can go try it, sort of thing. And that's one of the reasons why Amazon have integrated that whole thing of being able to buy a game through Twitch and through the people that they're watching Twitch on. That's the entire reason why Amazon did that kind of thing. And I mean, if you don't know the context or the long backstory of what's going on, when you're watching a Twitch stream of Eve, it's a bit awkward. You don't really get the sense of gravity. You don't get really, the gravity of the situations, or you don't really kind of realize, because if you didn't know anything about Eve and you went to have a look at that, like a big fight that someone's streaming, you see a slideshow, you see a bunch of stuff that you have no idea how, the relevance of it, the context of it, the scale or the scope of it, and you just kind of see, this is really bad because it's got really bad frame rate. And it's really slow. There's not really that much going on, so you just leave. You end up going watching something else that's a bit more active, a bit more kind of has a bit more going on with it on screen.
Do you know what I find funny about the whole Twitch thing, right? Because I have younger kids, right? And my daughter, who's 7, okay, and my boys, who are 14 and soon to be 17, right? They are sitting there and they will watch games that they don't play and have never played and are never going to play, probably.
I kind of do that because I'm so fucking piss poor at it.
But it's they enjoy the streamer.
Well, that's the other thing. The other thing is the other kind of side to the streaming part is not the games, but the streamer, the actual the talent behind who's giving you the content there. So,
one of my favorite FPS experiences in modern times since I stopped playing was actually watching Boat running around with his police car in, what was it, King of the Kill? It was the most hilarious fucking thing I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, we drove around in police cars and we'd have nights when we did that.
He kept using Eve terms for everything that happened in the game. It was like, holy shit.
That was kind of fun. That was really fun, actually.
Yeah, we had nights that we would stream, the night before they were going to do a server wipe, right? We'd get in a couple cop cars and we'd just drive around the server and just jump out and kill people or run them over or whatever, and we'd stream it. It's hilarious. So hey,
that's the cross pollination, right? If it was all in the same brand, so you're watching a Valkyrie tournament, right? And you figure out that there's also a single player mode where you can populate or fly around and shoot targets on planets, whatever they develop. And then you are told, well, this game is actually hooked into this other big game that's hugely complicated and extremely exciting. It's got this whole level of meta with history and big fights and space tyrants and space popes and bullshit like that. You would get so much fucking traction on a marketing level.
You said space pope.
Yes, I did, because the space pope is now living in Dell.
The funny thing is, way back, do you remember CCP Unifex?
Yes.
You do remember CCP Unifex?
I do.
John? I do. I remember going out in London when there was a London player meet, and he was there, and as you do, you always you talk about Eve and everything like that, drink, etc., and all that. I remember when I was I was asking CCP Unifex about various different things that were kind of coming up, and he did say that he was part of what he was doing at CCP was also looking at how to expand the how to expand Eve out from just being Eve to various different other games.
Pretty much everything I said is what he did at his presentation, Frankfurt, right?
But well, it wasn't really anything that he actually said in his in his presentation, because what he was basically talking about was how what he told me that night was basically how he wanted other games in Eve to tie into Eve, but not one-to-one, not moment-to-moment gameplay like into Eve, but basically be a way for CCP to create kind of profiles that people could buy. Like we had those teams in the industry teams, right? That they basically shelved eventually at the end of the thing. Like,
yeah,
I think one of the kind of cool ways that John was kind of looking at was basically making a game that allows you to create your own teams, train them up, and then people can actually hire them out. So you end up hiring out not just a random ass team, but actually a team that someone's actually put together in a different game. Gotcha. And so you end up having that thing, but then you kind of expand that to various other different aspects of Eve with various different other games. So like say Valkyrie, you're flying around in fighters and stuff like that. Your stats from that game ends up creating a custom fighter team that people in Eve can basically rent out, can basically put money to basically have those stats for their fighters in their carrier. And that's the way
it's more
kind of looking how the integration.
You don't want to do it in a complicated way that's going to be another fucking carbon engine adventure.
Well, it didn't want to be a carbon
simple,
base,
right?
but...
You want to start simple. That's why I said it needs to be gradual when I commented on RJ. Something like just letting Valkyrie things have some sort of booster or bonus stats to when you use drones or when you use fighters in Eve. It doesn't even have to be a huge benefit, just enough to, say, match a high-end implant, something like that, right? That's enough of a benefit to have an effect.
You don't want to go you don't want to go completely mental in terms of the stats and stuff like that. But that's how he kind of saw the kind of the framework for other games being tied to Eve, but not being linked so hard to Eve that you have to kind of cross some kind of crazy game engine kind of trying to when they were saying, like, when people were kind of asking about Rust, not Rust, about Dust, where if there's going to be a battle up in space, will we be able to see it in Dust?
You don't want to link it to time
it wasn't
issues,
that
right?
kind. Yeah, you didn't want to
link it to active time play. You hit the same problem that we have now in Eve with time zone stuff. The whole thing of coinciding, and then you're going to get players starting to ask for things like dungeon finders and bullshit like that. It's horrible, right? So you don't want to link the active time demands. What you want to link is things like the ecosystems, small boost, things like the economy, and things like, of course, the account thing, the vanity stuff, the monetization. All of these things should be linked. You shouldn't try to link active gameplay, because that's just going to be impossible to do with technology.
Yeah. Exactly, and the whole thing that John was talking about was not actually linking active gameplay, but using that active gameplay in other games to basically make teams and make ways that you can interject that kind of game, that kind of build up of character, build up of different stats for different things.
I mean, just something as simple as being able to run around in a lab code that you've generated in EVE Online, but you can now run around in Dust and shoot stuff with the lab code on.
Yeah. Well, to some degree. Anyway, Eric.
Alrighty, we gotta go, and so I'm gonna give the last word. I want to say Merry Christmas to everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for the tips. We appreciate it. And we're going to sign off. We did a marathon 2 hours for us, which was pretty good. Great show, Caleb. Good topics, everybody. Thank you very much. And we will see you next week. And,
new time slot.
Time slot.
Ping again about when the time slot changes.
Okay, can I get one little thing, please?
Yes.
Okay, I got, right now on my counter, I have 89 people in here. I challenge every single one of you to go out and recruit a friend and play Eve.
There you go.
Do it right now. That's a challenge.
Yeah, but like 6 of them are us, so.
Hey, we're not out of this, too. I'm challenging
us. True.
Alrighty, folks, we got to go. Merry Christmas, everybody. Have a good one. Everybody say bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Bye.
Christmas.
Bye bye.
Jingle balls.